Hey, today we're going to look at basic shaders and materials in Cinema 4D. I started up by creating a scene that has some objects that are rounded and some that have hard edges so we can see speculars and reflections working a little better later on. But first, let's start with creating the basic material. On the bottom here you'll find your basic editor. So I'm just going to double click in the window to create a new one, and then double click the new icon that appeared there next. The next is this window that shows up here. Here I can type in a name for the material. So let's just call this starter material, so I know what that is. On this row you have a lot of options. Let's start with color. For obvious reasons, color is the main color of your object. You can change the color by dragging in these lines here, writing in your RGB code here, or finding by clicking the color box here and just use a color picker. So I'm just going to find a blue color like this. Now that we found a color we like, we can go ahead and apply it to some objects. There are a few ways to do this. One, you can just take the objects and drag it to the objects you need. Or you can select the objects in the tree, right click on your material and click apply, and they will all get it. So let's just throw this on a few objects. And then we can click render. Now that we have something to play with, let's go back into our material and click this little arrow thing here. Here you have a lot of different effects and so on. I'll just point out the gradient here, which enables you to create a gradient. You can always click on that and you can select different options within the gradient here again. Go back to the color, select something else, like a noise. Let's see how that looks. Now you can see there's some noise in all the materials. Again, you can always click here and I can say I want a blue and a bit orange noise, and I'll get that too. So that's pretty neat. If I want to have a texture on this instead of just a pure color, I can always click this, find a texture I want. I'll use the displacement map this time and try and render that. And you'll see that the texture has been applied to all my materials. Let's go in and look a little bit at the specular. To more easily see the specular color, I want to remove the displacement map here. So I'll click the little arrow and click clear, and that will disappear. And let's click on the specular. The specular defines the highlight from the light sources in your scene. It is important when you're making materials because different materials in the world always have different ways of reflecting their light or being highlighted by the sun and so on. There are a few presets here, plastic and metal and colored. You can always adjust how it works by using these slides. The width is how wide it will be, the more narrow you see. You can see a small example of it here. Let's make it pretty narrow, but then make it really strong by increasing the height. The fall off is basically how gradient it will be. So let's put that there. And you also have an inner width, but so let's go ahead and see how that ends up being.